For someone who wants to scale fast to get to that seven-figure point, what is your advice?
It's a proven business model, and crucially, it shows that money can be made already. You should start making sales from day one. Quite often, businesses have failed that are profitable because the cash isn't there. Most people have heard of the term cash flow, but most young or new entrepreneurs don't actually know what that means. One of the ways to go to that million is through franchising.
Is it possible for someone who doesn't have the capital to still get into franchise business?
Oh, very easily. I think even in this world of AI today, people will buy from people. The human interaction should not be underestimated. So you're going from £100 turnover to £1 million turnover in 6 months. Just say to yourself, how hard can it be?
People think that the real flex is just to make money, buying a lot of expensive stuff and showing it off on social media. What advice do you have for people that want to be truly rich, not just rich on social media?
That should be something beyond the money that's driving you. And you know what? Then the money will flow.
Nick, welcome to Share. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Nick, you were very successful in the corporate world. You used to work for
Nissan in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you were making good money, six-figure salary.
Sure.
And you decided to leave all of that behind and start a construction business, followed by a ground maintenance business, essentially cutting grass. And
That's
some
right.
might find it, a boring job. How do you leave, the corporate world to cut grass? But eventually you had a seven-figure exit, so it was a very successful move for you. What made you, make such a bold move?
Sure, and when you get senior in corporate positions, clearly you've got all the trappings, you've got expense accounts and good salaries. But there comes a moment in life where you just think you can do more for yourself. And really, it wasn't about the money. And for me, it was about freedom of choice. That should be something beyond the money that's driving you. And you know what? Then the money will flow. A big risk, of course, big risk. Suddenly income stopping and all that. Yeah. But of course you can pre-plan some of it. If it doesn't happen suddenly, for me it was a voluntary decision. Right. I wasn't made redundant or anything sudden. I decided I want out. So then I could plan for that exit.
How long did you plan the exit?
Probably about 6 months, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a reasonable time.
Okay. So then you start this ground maintenance business, and you had no experience, did you, at all?
No. So what I did prior to that, as you mentioned earlier, I did actually, after my corporate job, I started a construction business. No background, no family background in construction or in business for that matter. Just before leaving the big job, we bought a new house, had it completely refurbished, big construction job there. I employed a builder to do that. But I spent a lot of time on that project myself because I was really interested. So I built up a relationship with the supervisor of the builder. He wanted to start a construction company of his own, but didn't have that confidence and the front, if you like, and the marketing and the customer liaison, which his boss used to do. So I was thinking to myself, how hard can it be? And that's the phrase I use. That's my own phrase about anything. Anything new you want to try, just say to yourself, how hard can it be? Because 9 times out of 10, somebody else has done it.
That's right.
Like construction company, somebody else has started a construction company, not new. And it started with a small extension for another family member who I said, I'm starting a company. The builder is brilliant. And it kind of just went from there. As that company grew, we would handle all construction, new refurbishment. But I always felt there was a need for the garden bit. Mm-hmm. And I used to subcontract it out. Came a time I thought, no, we should do it ourselves. Right? And that's where the aspect of gardening came in, which then grew into a grounds maintenance business of its own, because then I took a franchise on, countrywide grounds maintenance, to drive that business. And over time, that became bigger than, well, not quite bigger than the construction company, but certainly grew quicker than the construction company was growing.
Okay.
Cutting grass, it sounds boring, but the reality is, Bita, that grass literally does not stop growing in a recession or during COVID. So there's always a need for that kind of
That's
service.
so interesting. I know, I heard you say that somewhere, and I was like, that's actually very smart. But then not everybody is happy to pay for their grass to get cut.
No, that's a good point. So therefore, what I pivoted on, I realized very quickly, no disrespect to personal, residential gardens, I refuse to do individuals' residential gardens. So I quickly decided to only concentrate on what we call corporate clients. Schools, hospitals, estates, cemeteries, that kind of stuff. They have a need to keep their grounds looking good, right? Whether it's a recession or not. You know, if a customer's arriving at your premises and the grass is up here, gives the wrong impression, right?
That's right.
So that comes to basic cleanliness almost.
That's true. And it's so interesting because by doing so, you almost guaranteed yourself recurring clients, right? So you didn't have to constantly look for that new client.
Recurring income is one that most business people who are growing a business should aim for. Recurring income. What that means is regular income every month. It's kind of, let's call it subscription-based stuff.
Right.
Nowadays, a lot of models are subscription-based, right? Whether it's gym membership or even on an app, pay so much a month. Whether you use it or not, down to the individual, but so it's that recurring income is a great business model. So if I give you a real life example for the audience, if you like, bring it to life in the grounds maintenance industry. So I'd go and see a school, for example.
Right.
Have a look, grounds, I take a note of what they want, line marking because they've got sports fields, sports days, summer sports, all of that. I get all of that information. And then I go back and price it to say, for me, as an expert now, telling you this is the maintenance regime you need. In other words, my guys ought to come in once a week. They'll do different things every week, grass, hedges, whatever. But it's going to cost you £12,000 a year, for instance. Right. That's the quote, okay? But then you pay me £1,000 a month. Regardless of summertime will come more often, winter will come less, but to you, Mr. Client, you just pay us £1,000 a month.
And it will make sure that your ground is always
of course.
Whatever sector you choose, I'm sure you have a lot of competitors, right? So if you wanted to incentivize your clients and you're a new business, how would you go about the prices?
So the way to look at it is understand what your consumers may want.
Right.
Not everybody wants to pay the cheap. They want value for money, not necessarily the cheapest. And there's a difference in something called value for money.
Okay.
And then people are willing to pay the going rate. Yeah. In other words, probably higher than your competitor if they see your value, your product or your service as slightly higher value to them. Now that value may manifest itself in better service, better delivery times, clean premises, whatever that extra is.
Yeah. You started attracting new clients by the old-fashioned ways, cold calls, visiting premises. How do you recommend people in this AI world and internet obsessed world? Do you recommend that would still work?
I think even in this world of AI today, people will buy from people. The human interaction should not be, underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, some elements of the sort of mundane stuff is being replaced by AI, of course, and very well. And some avatars now are as good as human beings, but they're not human beings, right? But going back to the cold calling, I would drive around on a planned route and say, this is my day of cold calling today. And I'd pre-plan where I'm going to drive. And I'd drive past the kind of clients I wanted, right? And I would go in, because I'm quite confident anyway, I'll talk to anyone. What's the worst thing? They're going to say no, right? Thank you very much, you go, right? So it's a question of then going in, go to reception usually. Most receptionists were fine if you approach them nicely and, all the rest of it. A lot of times I'd end up ending up minimum leaving a brochure and a card, or I'd say, I'll wait, can I speak to the right manager if they're available? Or they might say, come back 3 hours later or whatever. So it was just a question of getting in there. And all I would say is, look, somebody is obviously maintaining your grounds, because you can see.
Yes.
Just give me the opportunity of suggesting two things. One is see if I can match the price, but see if I can actually give you better value for money. So then it's about this value. It's about how I go back. I'm looking out for things that could be improved, because not all contractors do a perfect job.
Right.
Think of one idea, maybe if I'm looking around, there are these flower beds,
Right.
bushes growing out of flower beds. Normally the beds themselves aren't that well maintained. So what I do is I would say, okay, in my quote, I'd say I'll supply free of charge some bark.
Okay.
Yeah, some bark. I'll supply it free of charge. That will make the front look beautiful instantly as soon as the bark is put on. Didn't cost me much.
Okay.
So that's the extra value I'm giving in my quote.
Right.
Do a before and after photograph if I could.
Okay.
So with these bark, I could, even those that you could use Photoshop or something. So there's the flower beds without bark, flower bed with bark. Of course, it looks better. It's their flower bed, right?
Right.
So those sort of things. Look, what I'm saying is not rocket science.
No, well, you know the psychology of your job,
Exactly,
the business.
and that's the key.
You know
and
what people are looking for. You know what looks good. You know what's not done properly, and all of that. Once you point it out, obviously, they know that you know your business, and I think it's a winning point.
And you're selling the trust, therefore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, they're really rushing to scale fast, but you didn't do that. You slowed down to build a solid foundation. So for someone who wants to scale fast to get to that 7-figure point, what is your advice? Why did you take your time?
The young entrepreneurs coming through are only about scaling fast because they want a quick exit. Build the foundations first. Mm-hmm. And then scaling fast makes sense, because the problem with scaling too quickly, if your foundations aren't solid, is your race to the top. You will fumble at the last moment because your foundation's gone. It can't sustain, because scaling fast means what? Scaling fast doesn't just mean fast turnover, does it? Although that's an element of it. So you're going from, I don't know, 100 pound turnover to £1 million turnover. That's fast in 6 months, very fast. But how have you achieved that? Who's buying your stuff? How are you delivering it? Things like that. So, you've got to kind of just take a breather and make sure your foundations are solid. And the foundations contain 3 pillars probably. Right. One is understanding how you're delivering what it is you're delivering to your clients, whether it's product or service, having systems and processes in place. The other one is the staff. Assume you've got staff. Let's assume you have staff. Who are they? How are they performing, etc.? Are you delegating enough? All that stuff. And then the third one is, how are you managing the money? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And cash flow is the killer if you don't manage it. Now, most people have heard of the term cash flow, but most young or new entrepreneurs don't actually know what that means.
What does it mean?
Yeah. So it means managing the money coming in that covers your costs. Mm-hmm. All the way. Your outgoings are covered by the money coming in virtually at all times. Doesn't always happen. That's why you have bank overdrafts, or you might have a loan or something. In other words, if your wages and all your costs are £10,000 a month, but you only got 9,000 coming in, every month you're a month short.
2,000 out, yeah.
And that soon quickly builds up. And then a VAT bill comes in. Suddenly, where do we pay that? So managing and understanding how the cash moves in and out of your business. And quite often businesses have failed that are profitable, mm-hmm. but still go out of business because the cash isn't there. Just because you're profitable on paper, your year-end accounts might show £100,000 profit. You don't have £100,000 in the bank at that moment. That's the reality.
Right. If an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur or a new entrepreneur is looking at you right now, and they're like, I want to get to that first $1 million, pounds, whatever. Do you have any advice for them?
I would say entirely focus on your customer. Mm-hmm. Understand your customer. When I say understand your customer, understand why they should buy your service and why that'll change. Almost, I'm making it dramatic, but why your service will change their life.
Right.
Think that way.
Yes. Okay.
Now, as I say, it depends on the product or service, but even why presenting the most beautifully presented artisan coffee at that moment makes your customer feel at that moment, right? Because your customers come in, they've had their 10,000 other issues. Every customer is different. They've just had a breakup to, problem at home, or they're just in a rush whatever it is, at that moment you're transacting, understand it's an intimate moment at that moment. So I dealt with the manager, and I know enough that those roles are so demanding. Or if you're a manager running a school is hard. You've got demands on children breaking stuff, the toilets now blocked, there's all sorts of other stuff going on the time, right?
Yeah.
So I would go in and say, I'll take that problem away from you. Here's my schedule. As long as you agree to it, we'll just carry on. We'll arrive, we'll sign in, we'll do the grass, do what you want, we'll be gone.
Right.
That's one less worry for you,
Yes.
Mr. Busy Facilities Manager, right? And 9 times out of 10, they've never heard that way. And of course, you've got to deliver that in practice once you promise it. As soon as you do that, then they become your best customers. And one of the things I used to do to add to that, I personally either rang or saw a customer absolutely religiously regularly.
All right.
At the minimum phone call,
Okay.
once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah, at the minimum. Or once a month visit or once a quarter visit, depending on, Even if it's to ring to just say hi and talk about the weather, if there's nothing specific to talk about, right? This way, in those conversations, that's when your nuggets come out from the pain points. If I knew a client well enough, I know their interest is in dogs, for instance. And if I see something, I'll just send a little photo of a dog. Or I'll say, look, one of the dogs was on our field here. Look, whatever, something like that.
Okay.
So you always have to look for those little things.
Yes.
I make it sound easy. Of course, it's not. But you just have to consciously look for those little things. Because at the outset on this podcast, I said, regardless of AI, human being interaction will still be important.
Right. Even more important, probably.
Even more
in
important.
the age of AI.
Exactly.
Yes, because you're going to miss those interactions.
You are.
So your company, your ground maintenance company, you were a franchisee.
I have a lot of franchising background in different directions, in different parts of the industry. Mm-hmm. So now what I've done recently, I've joined a colleague, Paul, and together we run a boutique franchise consultancy where we bring jointly all our franchising experience over the years to help either startups to become franchisors. How do you grow your business? One of the ways to go to that million is through franchising. Mm-hmm. Or we help existing franchisors to grow their business.
Do you reckon that it's less risky to start a business from scratch rather than buying a franchise business?
I think it's more risky starting from scratch.
Why is that?
And less risky with franchising. It's very much about, if you're starting a business from scratch that you want to grow, of course in order to start a franchise, you've got to have some money. Right. Of course. Right. But let's say you got something, but either you can start your own business, but of course you're on your own, basically. You're learning the ropes for that sector. You might have some industry knowledge, of course. You need your own finance to grow, to keep growing, right? And to prove the model.
Right, yes.
And it might fail.
That's the one, to prove the model.
It might fail. Or you replace most of that hard work, if you like, from somebody else who's done the hard work,
right,
has got a brand already established. It's a proven business model. Mm-hmm. And crucially, it shows that money can be made already.
Someone else has done the hard work, yeah.
Yeah. So it's so much easier, and that's a tried and tested and proven method. Okay. So you're kind of fast-tracking so many things.
It's actually very tempting, but the way you're describing franchising is very tempting, but not everybody has the capital. Is it possible for someone who doesn't have the capital to still get into franchise business?
Oh, very easily. The franchise business is so established that there's funding available from banks. Because they understand franchising.
Okay.
They understand the risk is de-risked for this individual who wants to buy into a franchise. Whereas if they were starting their own business, they want to go and raise money, you'd have to convince the bank manager's business plan and all that. And of course, they'd ask you, have you done this before? You haven't. Well, it's chicken and egg. Do you come back to us after 2 years when the business is established, right? Would be a response. But hang on, how do I trade for 2 years, right? Yeah. Whereas here, the banks fully understand business models. They recognize the brands maybe. Okay. And all the big high street banks have franchising departments or divisions. So we got relationships with them, so we can introduce straight in there, and they will lend anywhere from 100% down. Depends on the proposition.
My next question, I know it sounds more like, how long is a piece of string, but I'm sure people would come to you and say, once I put this money into the business and become a franchisee, how long would it take me roughly to start having revenue?
Some industries and sectors, you should start making sales from day one. It's already a running business elsewhere, right?
Right.
So as long as you follow the process, you should start earning money pretty quickly. Okay. in the franchise sector.
Nick, I know that on the side of all of this business, you've been doing something that has a specific meaning to you. What is that?
Sure. So that's a charity called Sense International.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine being born deaf and blind in a poor country, in a poor family. Mm-hmm. Right? You've got zero chance in life, quite frankly. So Sense International has been going for about 31 years now. We try and make a difference to lives. Okay. In the end, through our intervention programs and what have you, we end up giving individuals self-pride, self-confidence, but also means of self-communication. So I combine my sort of personal thing of fitness and trekking, which I loved anyway. Mm. That's why my friend knew that he invited me to the first one, which was Everest Base Camp. And since then, we've taken groups of people virtually all over the world, many, many times to the Himalayas particularly, to help raise money.
I truly admire people who do this because I feel like we're getting into this phase in the world where people think that the real flex is just to make money, buying a lot of expensive stuff and showing it off on social media, saying, look at me, I'm so rich, I'm so successful. To me, the real flex is if you are, lucky enough to be in that position where you can make money, you might as well help others and create some purpose with that. So for you, given that you are a successful businessman, but you also do this kind of work, what do you think? What advice do you have for people that want to be truly rich, not just rich on social media?
Social media obviously has amplified that human behavior. That human behavior has always been there. Right? Mm-hmm. You know that, I know that. The grand palaces that have been built, or what are they for, right? I want to just redefine, certainly for me, what rich means. Mm-hmm. Money, of course, helps, and money should be the goal, if that's what you want, but not at all costs. But also to have a purpose as to why you want to collect all this money. Yes, you want to show you're successful, you're challenging yourself, your ability to build a business, all of that, of course, comes in. But also how good you are as a human being, how much good you are doing to the point you made, and also your health.
Yeah.
Unless you got your health, you really can't enjoy the money anyway, even if you're making it.
Right.
Right? So what's the point? I've always been sort of focused on health, clean living as much as possible. I had a moment in life about 3 years ago where I had a sudden episode where I had to have a quintuple bypass actually. Happened within 3 days. So after the operation, people would say, quadruple bypass, God, your life's going to change, isn't it? You're going to not do all this mountain climbing you've done. You're going to have to stop going to the gym, right? Everybody, sort of general people around me, coming from a good place.
From a good place, yeah.
And I was, for the first couple of months, I was taking that on board, thinking, oh shit, my life has completely changed. But then there comes a moment I was, hang on, I haven't changed. Something physical has happened. Why should I accept all this going in the slow lane when I've been in the fast lane in that sense? So then I met a company who do physiotherapy. I wasn't prepared to let it get in my way.
Yeah.
So today I am probably even fitter than I was before the operation.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that's 4 years on.
Amazing.
Now, I'm not a superhuman. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's always possible.
Right.
Just focus, talk to yourself a bit more, just take that first step, then the rest opens up.
And commit, yes.
And commit, right? So, all of that ties in many ways around focus on business as well. Mm. Yeah. But don't let go of yourself. Have your health. But the health also means mental well-being as well, by the way.
Amazing.
So-
That's very inspiring. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I learned
Thank
a lot
you.
from you and really got inspired by your determination.
Thank
And
you.
it was lovely to have you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.